Assalamu alaikum Huda, how are you? This is the remaining video for the interatrial septum, which was a little bit complicated in the presentation, so I will explain that to you. So I have put some papers which with names. This is septum primum, this is septum secundum, and this is atriovenous endocardial cushions, or AV cushions, which basically demarcate between the atrium and the ventricles. So imagine this is the endocardial cushions, this is atrium, and below this paper is ventricle. So what happens, this is the top of the, for example, this is the top of the atrium. So from the top of the atrium, a septum or the ridge grows in towards like low towards this AV endocardial cushions. Okay, for example, this is the septum primum. So this is growing and growing, and then it is trying to meet the AV endocardial cushions. So before meeting it, this foramen, this gap, is known as foramen primum or ostium primum. Ostium means opening, foramen means also opening. So what happens that this foramen primum, this gets fused with the endocardial cushions, and then there is a gap or the perforations in the upper part of the septum primum. For example, I'll just make a hole. So this hole is the newly created opening, which will separate the upper part of the septum primum and the lower part of the septum primum. This new opening is known as foramen secundum. Okay, so far, what is this? This is septum primum growing from the superior surface of the atrium, trying to join the AV endocardial cushions, and then before joining, this foramen is known as foramen primum because it's the first one, primary one. After that, it gets fused, and then there's a new foramen by creating perforations in the septum that is known as foramen secundum. Now, this gap, after this gap, next I'll explain the septum secundum. Now, another septum arises from the top of the superior surface of the atrium on the right side, on the right of the septum primum. This comes and then this grows, and it's a concave open, it's like a, if you see from the side here, from this side, it's like a concave septum. It has like a superior limb and then inferior limb. So inferior limb goes and joins with the AV endocardial cushions, and then the superior limb causes a gap below it, which is known as foramen ovale. So if we see from this side, these are two septums, and it is, although it is joined from the side section, if you see with the endocardial cushions, then it has a gap below the superior limb. So basically it's the thing is like this, but then if you are seeing from the front side, it seems like this. So when you see the gap below the septum secundum is foramen ovale. Now this foramen ovale is connecting to the other side of the atrium, that means on the left atrium, through the foramen secundum, and it's a oblique pathway like this. So basically what I'm talking about, this is the gap, this is the gap, and this is the foramen secundum of the septum primum, and then it's a direction, it's like this. So basically I will go a little bit like this. Yes, now you can understand well, I guess. So it will go from not like this, rather it's like slanting. So this opening leads to the foramen secundum, to the right, to the left atrium. So this whole pathway is foramen ovale, and in the fetal life, blood goes from the right atrium to the left atrium, mixing the oxygenated blood with the deoxygenated blood. Now what happens when the baby is born? Because the lungs are working now, baby cries. After the baby cries, there is pressure and the lungs expand. And because of the lung expansion, blood returns to the left atrium via the pulmonary vein with a lot of pressure, which was not evident before. So when the blood comes with such a pressure that because of this pressure, this septum primum, it just goes and it just gets attached to the septum secundum with such a force that this little gap is attached like this. It's like fixed like this. And because it is a slanting pathway, so it is like this. So no gap you can see any further. So the final septum is basically made up of two parts. The upper part is by the septum secundum and the lower part is by septum primum. They also mention this flap because this flap is acting as a valve in the fetal life, right? And this valve needs to be shut down or pushed across the septum secundum so that there is no communication between the left atrium and the right atrium. So this is one reason that this gets closed, and the other reason is because of the baby got born and then its lungs are working, the pressure in the right atrium is no longer with high pressure. Because of the low pressure and because of the high pressure here, so these two things contribute towards the closure of this foramen ovale. So I hope this is clear. Foramen primum, foramen secundum, and then foramen ovale. So this was the interatrial septum formation. So I hope that gets cleared. If anything you don't understand or you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.